It's the Mark and Pete Show. Happy, happy, happy.
Hello and welcome to the show. Colourful conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark. Each week, the two debate a very important topic. Well, this week we debate happy and sadness in society. Well, we have seen the complete contrasts in the world this week. Well, from those places that are the happiest on earth to those that are the saddest. Well, with me today is Clergyman Pete, and I wonder what mood he's in today. Clergyman Pete, are you happy or are you sad?
Well, Businessman Mark, I'm happy, of course, and obviously I'm happy because I'm broadcasting the Mark and Pete Show. I mean, where else would I be? It's just the centre of all happiness. That's what people always say to me. They say, "Why are you always so happy?" And I say, "Well, you know, it's being so happy keeps me going." That's what I always say. Yeah. So I mean, being happy is of course a state of mind, in that it's almost by definition a state of mind. But of course, you are affected. Everyone's affected by their surroundings. However, there is, counter to that, the point that you can make that the attitude that you have, your reaction to your surroundings or the situation, is what can make you happy or sad. So it can be a cultural thing. So I guess people in different places will be happy for different reasons. People within different culture will be happy for different reasons. So what does that make a multicultural society like Britain schizophrenic, I guess?
Whoa, yes, indeed. Well, we'll come on to the details. But you're right. I mean, for some people, what, for example, in my case, might be pure happiness, elation, etc., may actually be something quite the opposite for others.
Yes.
But it's interesting that we have seen in recent times the complete opposites in the world. And on the one hand, we'll talk about where we see the most enjoyable places to live and some of those places that have suffered rather badly. Now, I'm just going to set this scene up with a little poem called A Sorry State. The state of happiness is a place that appeals, which the journey of joy quickly reveals. High spirits brought by fashioned heels, pure exhilaration sending you head over heels, and watching people performing great cartwheels, to moments of merriment and munching on meals, and the sensational sound as a church bell peals, the love of laughter and high-pitched squeals, bringing smiles to faces, and those clapping like seals. Yet the state of well-being and the way each of us feels can be quickly undermined by what evil conceals, and the true state of mind that stupidity steals reflects the way we live with radical ideals. So there you go. You have the complete contrast.
Yes.
So if we start with what I mean by this is that at the beginning of the week, it was revealed that Norway apparently is the happiest place on earth. Well, congratulations, Norway. Well done. I mean, that's something that I know that they seem to rank very highly in all of these charts. Now, what does that mean? Well, I guess that they've done a combination of socioeconomic statistics and looking at those people's finances to their general state of mind. To those who sadly have also in the contrast in that league table, who are the saddest. So although I've revealed the number one, let me ask you, Clergyman Pete, who is second on the list, do you think?
Okay, Norway's number one. I hate these quizzes. Let me see. So it's right. If Norway's number one, it's going to be. I'm going to go geographical. I'm going to say Sweden for number two.
No. Sweden is number 10. I'll tell you, Sweden is number 10.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, look, I mean, that's pretty good. That's better than I normally do.
That is, I would be happy with that, as I say.
Okay. So number two, right. Now, you didn't poo-poo my theory.
No.
So I've had Norway. I'm going for Denmark.
Way! Bullseye. Yes.
Yo, well,
Denmark.
we can edit that bit out about Sweden. It'd be no problem. No one will know. Yeah, okay.
Nobody will know.
Oh, so I got that
Not even
first time. Denmark, yeah, number 2. Yeah, of
Well,
course.
actually, a lot of the northern regions seem to rank very highly in the
Yeah.
world. So we have Iceland at 3, Switzerland. I suppose they're very well off, aren't they? 4, Finland 5, the Netherlands 6, Canada. Yeah, there's a place.
Okay. Yeah.
Place. Canada 7th, but you have to go to the other parts of the world for those in 8th and 9th. Now, where do you think they might be?
So say that again. Sorry, Canada.
Well, I mean, the happiest places on Earth in 8th and 9th. So you have to go away from the northern.
What do I think is the 8th and 9th?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to go to the southern.
Well, I'm
hemisphere.
going to go out on a limb, sir, and say it's not the United States of America.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. And it's not, we're not talking about Norway. So it's somewhere completely different, you say? So,
I said the southern hemisphere. Yes.
Southern hemisphere. You're saying
northern.
southern? Oh, right. Okay. So Singapore. Oh, no, that's in the northern hemisphere. No, it's just about, only just, though. Only just.
Man
who
has no idea of where he's living in the world. Or where
Singapore's
else
nearly on the equator, Give me, cut me some slack. Okay. Australia.
Yeah, well, actually, New Zealand is 8th, and I know the Australians won't like this, but they are 9th.
Oh, okay.
But I would like to ask you, who is bottom of the list?
Who is what? Who is bottom? Who is basically the arse of the world when it comes to happiness?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I don't think this is going to be one of the big countries then, because although they go through turmoil, like America. You could say there's cultural change going on, so unhappy, but that doesn't mean they're the unhappiest because you fell into the trap. I think. So, Switzerland must be up there because they're quite rich, or something. It doesn't necessarily buy you happiness, or maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong, but okay, I'm going to say somewhere like Somalia. Somewhere where they have lots of famine.
No, I mean, you're sort of in that region. I'm going to tell you because it is quite serious, because for obvious reasons. This is a region that has suffered through plague, famine, and many other ages. It's a Central African Republic.
Okay.
Burundi was the penultimate one. Tanzania was just above. In fact, ironically, and no surprise, Syria, through its recent plight.
Oh. I should have said Syria. That would have been.
You should have said Syria.
Yes, that would have been a better choice. Yes, if I'd been thinking at all, I would have said Syria. Yeah.
Yes, and I think you were obviously in happy mode when you had too much happiness there.
Yeah.
But I would like to sort of talk about the conversation about how life can change very, very quickly. Now, if we have seen in recent times that many people who've gone about their normal daily lives being relatively happy, suddenly their lives dramatically change. And if we think of what that can mean within an instant, and we've seen in London with the terrorist attack where sadly 5 people have died, their whole lives have completely changed. Definitely we're in a sadness mode. And I wanted to ask you, Clergyman Pete, from where people bring sort of some form of salvation here in terms of one moment we're all happily walking down the road thinking ourselves, well, we're enjoying ourselves being on holiday or going about our daily lives, and all of a sudden we have an extreme case from my poem, which was like, we suddenly end up with having to deal with radical ideals where one person can change
brings unhappiness
somebody's life.
We had this tragic and rather ridiculous terrorist attack. Now, I say tragic because, of course, people's lives cut short for no good reason at all is in itself tragic. And we hear the reports of the lives of those people who were killed on Westminster Bridge by having a car driven onto them, the policeman who was killed by having a knife driven into him for no good reason other than the ideology of the person who perpetrated it. And that's saddening, of course. That makes you unhappy. It's an unhappy end. It should not have happened. But it's ridiculous also because, of course, it achieves nothing. It's a rather pathetic attempt at terrorism because it does seem like the security forces in Britain are getting pretty good at restricting the use of explosives, etc. So all you can get is an estate car and a knife. It's pathetic. Yeah, he's not just a terrorist; he's a laughable terrorist. This guy, who is now dead as well. So, okay, failed on many fronts. But
that's the happy part.
Yeah. Well, I think it is when someone when you go off the rails like that. In the end, you deserve to be killed, and you wouldn't have been killed under the justice system at the moment. That's just the way it is. He had to be killed because he was a continuing threat, so it was right to do it. Now, this bringing of unhappiness, what are we to make of that? Well, there's 2 points. One is for those who trust in God, trust completely in Jesus, when they die, they go to be with God. Now, this terrorist, who it seems to have been a believing Islamicist, or whatever they choose to call it, what used to be called a believing Muslim, he would believe from his acts that he would go straight to paradise. He has now realised that that's not the case. So he's in a bad position. But for people who trust in Jesus, even if they're killed by some madman in a hatchback, they go to be with God. So to them, that's a happy result. For those left behind, it's sad. Mourning and death is real. There's a book I read a few years ago now called The Happiest People on Earth.
Oh,
now,
yes.
It was written by this married couple who Elizabeth and John Sherrill, write quite a few of this sort of book, in that they write the personal story of a well-known Christian. They do this, they sort of ghostwrite it for them, but they don't pretend that they're not there. It's there on the cover that they've helped them write it. And this is the personal story of Demos Shakarian, who his name isn't famous, but what he started is famous. The Full Gospel Businessmen's Men's Fellowship International. This sort of business breakfast idea spread around the world now. When you have a Christian speaker at a breakfast and you support each other in prayer, this sort of idea has really grown around the world, and it continues. It's over 150 countries have these businessmen's fellowships. He calls these people the happiest people on earth, and by these people he means people who trust God through Jesus Christ and are filled with his Spirit. They have an intimate knowledge of God, and he has very simple, actually straightforward ways of doing that, taken straight from the Bible. And I think he's right. They're people from all around the world engaged in the hard work of business, which you'll know is not, although ultimately rewarding, is not always happy day to day. The interactions with difficult people, sometimes there's failure, not your own fault, etc., etc. And these people are the happiest who know God and are filled with his Spirit. And so that's my message about what is it that to be happy. It doesn't matter where you live or what the situation. It's relationships and knowing who to trust that can make you happy. I mean, just on an individual level, people who have terminal cancer can be happy if they're surrounded by their friends and family. This is a finding that's been found by studies that have been made. Surprisingly, that's the case. But but what they find is that this is exaggerated even more if people have faith in God. These are studies done not by Christians, but by I guess secular studies. They're just scientific studies, social scientific studies of people. So what makes you happy? It's relationships and trust in God. And the situation that you're in, although, having money is good, of course it's not bad in and of itself. That's not the deciding factor. The deciding factor is the relationships you have.
Well, interestingly, ironically, the report that I mentioned, which conducted this survey about the different countries, did actually cite that in certain situations, not the sole ingredient, but mentioned that those in well-paid jobs are happier and more satisfied with their lives.
Yeah.
Now, strangely enough, they did actually quantify this by saying that the effect has a diminishing return. So, for example, an extra $100 of salary is worth much more to someone at the lower end of an income distribution than somebody perhaps at the higher end.
Makes sense. Yeah,
that's natural because, of course, obviously pro rata it would make a lot of sense. But interestingly as well, is happiness, I guess, is also about being content with your lot, isn't it? I mean, being content by being in the right partnerships, or the right marriage, having the right family. Certainly, I think the other thing is about being realistic. Some people may think that they're happy, not necessarily being at the top of the business tree, and they're quite happy being at the lower end of the strata. Some people might think that just because of the bottom of the corporate ladder means that they're unhappy. But from my experience, ironically, the higher you go up with the more intense pressure and the demands on you, I have seen that quite a lot of individuals are extremely stressed. They are extremely on edge, and not always, despite the financial rewards that come with it, always feel that they're happy. In fact, quite often they seem very, very miserable. So I think that materialistic rewards aren't always a measure of happiness, and I think that's really very, very important. So taking the point about where you put your priorities, and I think that's really very important too. So from your point of view, what sort of the tips if people are feeling sad because they're not happy with their lot? What should people be doing then? What's the end conclusion to our thoughts on being happy?
I'll give my thoughts.
Sad?
Maybe there's some input from a business point of view, because there's the spiritual and the physical elements, aren't there? I mean, I'll deal with just a couple of points here from a sort of everyday angle. One is being happy with your lot. Well, people say that, and there's much in the Bible to talk about that, about being happy in all circumstances. Indeed, being able to thank God in all circumstances. But there's also the insistence that you must be striving to do God's will, that there's a purpose to your life, that you are part of God's purpose, that there are things that God has planned for you to do. So I would say that yes, being happy with your lot, as in not griping, not thinking, why aren't I don't I have as much as that person, not being dissatisfied, but being thankful for what you've got. But also having a purpose, looking to the future, having a dream, if you like, that you're trying to fulfill, makes you happy because you're thinking of that and not the situation around. And of course, there is treating people well. As I said, relationships are important, and they're more important than your physical well-being. And faith in God, of course, I've taken as read in what I'm saying here. But there's one other thing that I just want to say, because we don't want to miss this out, and that is there is such a thing as clinical depression, which there's been a lot of analysis of it. Of course, it can be triggered by a situation that you're in. But there's something physical, I suppose we could call it a chemical imbalance in the brain. So in all that I've said there, I'm not talking about clinical depression, which needs medical treatment. And I just wanted to recognise that. And if you are in that situation, there's no shame in seeking proper help from your doctor, which can sometimes include some drugs that the doctor will prescribe. So don't be ashamed to go and speak to your doctor and have it sorted out if you're going through an actual deep clinical depression.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's good advice. And I know that from a commercial point of view, a business point of view, and most people are working in some capacity. But what I would say here is be realistic. One of the mistakes that often people make is that they look above and they see that those who have more means that when they try and benchmark themselves in that way, they probably get a little bit disheartened. They feel that, well, simply because they don't have the major director title or perhaps even some of the financial rewards. But financial rewards will come based upon your own ability to focus on what you do well. If you set yourself realistic goals, then goals which could be financially related, but crucially are actually based around quality. Because if you know that you're doing a good job, it will be recognized. And what will happen is that, and this is the other thing I would definitely say, happiness will also come in the fact that try and be a little bit more adventurous. Don't always stick to what you know, because if you're going to progress and if you're going to embellish your own skills, why not take on a project that perhaps you never thought of doing before? Why not expand your skills? What I can say, certainly I haven't been in business, is that one of the things that does make you happy is trying to evolve. Don't just stay with one particular type of role, because I know that in the evolution of the way that technology works and business works, if you compare society and business today with the last 30 years, it's very, very different. I certainly know many of the professions that I used to engage with 30 years ago. Some of them don't even exist. They've been usurped by technology. And maybe for those people who have gone a little bit unhappy, simply that they weren't really prepared to do something extra, try something new. And I think that's very, very important. Remember, rewards don't always come by simply finance.
Yeah, just briefly, I mean, from the a Christian perspective, using the sort of language that's used in Christian circles, that would be called stepping out of the boat.
Yes.
Talking about, when Jesus walked on water, Peter stepped out of the boat because he believed he could walk on water too. And he could when he kept looking at Jesus. When he looked down, started to consider his own situation, he started to sink. Stepping outside your comfort zone, in other words, is what brings true fulfillment. So that's just another way of voicing the same idea.
And the idea of stepping out of the boat does apply to business. So here's another example. It happened to me, and I know it's happened to many hundreds of people I've met over the years, thousands, in fact, over many, many years. And that is that sometimes the world that we're in now can present challenges because they force you to perhaps make a job redundant, but maybe you have to start looking elsewhere and doing other things. And the elsewhere can often mean geographically. Don't be too worried about having to move. Actually, the world does present itself with a lot of opportunities. You can learn new cultures, possibly new languages, and never be frightened of those barriers that were once in place maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I think that you will gain a lot more happiness by learning. I think the more that you learn and the more you're challenged, whilst it might seem that there are some depressing days and weeks where you're just burdened with too much work, you'll realize that suddenly you're a better person, you're more skilled, and you've got more to offer. So don't always think that sometimes that where there is a challenge that's something that you should be too depressed about, because actually, ironically, if you're conquering those challenges, you are definitely going to be happier in the future. So listeners, what do you think? I mean, what makes you happy? What makes you sad? Why not let us know? Follow us at Mark and Pete on Twitter and just keep that dialogue going, because I know it makes us very happy. So join us again next time for more colourful conversations with Mark and Pete.